The following podcast is a little fiery but mostly peaceful. If you're an automaton, turn away now and shelter in place. If you're a Catholic ready to renew your prescriptions of red pills and white pills, stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Catholics Aren't Zombies. I'm your host, Chris Munier. Delighted to have you again. Women should not be in the workplace. Men should not be in the workplace. Nobody should be in the workplace. What? What are you talking about this time, Chris? Nobody in the workplace? Who's going to be doing any of the work then? Yeah, that's right. You heard me. Nobody should be in the workplace. The workplace is horrendous. It's awful. And I would wager to say that somewhere around 90 to 95% of people, these poor souls who are stuck going to work, as they go to work, there may as well be a sign over and above the building they work in, right as they enter the building, that says, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter." It's gotten that bad. It's sad. It's pathetic. I'd say this has kind of been our lot in life for the last 20, 30, 50, I don't know how many years. Put a number on it. Back in the old days, people worked for themselves. Now, okay, I know it's a long discussion we got to have about the Industrial Revolution and all that. There's more than one, of course, and now they want to have a fourth one, and this is the worst of the bunch. I'm not anti-industrial. I'm not anti-going and becoming a captain of industry and making a big splash in the world and providing great services for people in a company environment in some circumstances. However, we've ruined it. These companies are awful. They support abortion all the time. They donate to Planned Parenthood. They side with the Democrats on everything. They get all kinds of funky, junky tax loopholes that the rest of us don't get. It's not that I want companies to be taxed out the nose, but hey, you know what? If I gotta pay, they gotta pay. At least needs to be fair. That's one aspect of it. There's so many reasons why you don't want to work for companies now. Did anybody notice that cocaine cola is now making people take training for ending their whiteness or something like that? What is it? You gotta sit in the tanning bed till you're not white anymore? Everybody gets all up in arms when you make this claim that women should not be in the workplace. And so there's a big debate on that. We've gotten so far down the various three waves of feminism that, the old traditional gender roles, sex roles, are almost unrecognizable now. I get why people don't really understand the way things used to work, and there's a really long discussion we have to have there. But I'm going to take this a step further. Men should not be in the workplace either. This shouldn't surprise anybody. With all the sexual harassment lawsuits, with all the preferential hiring for women, men ought to be the first ones looking to get out. And by the way, you know how I'm right? Because that's exactly what they're doing. That explains the incels. That explains the guys who are hanging out in their mom's basement. That explains the guys who go to work and basically go galt, where they do as little as possible to not be seen and not make waves in anything, even though they have the capacity to do a whole heck of a lot more. Yeah, so this is already happening. I'm just saying, let's take it a step further and get the heck out of the workplace. All right, as usual, I know that the sticking point is, what do you do in place of that? Nature abhors a void, so what do you do to supplant that void and allow people to make a living? It's going to have to come in the form of entrepreneurialism otherwise, right? You've got three basic options. You can go and work for Cocaine Cola. You can work for Amazon and let them slave you to death. You can work for any of the number of folks I've worked for, and that's all they do is they slave you to death and rip you off and all that. Or you can figure out things to do entrepreneurially. You can join the military. That used to be an okay option, but I think they've caved in on the face panties thing, and they're going to make everybody get vaccinations. So that's not as attractive as an option as it used to be. Your only other option is to go out on your own, figure out how you're going to do a business with yourself as a sole proprietor. Maybe you find your best buddy to go into business with. I don't recommend it, though, because it usually doesn't work. Let me give you some ideas on how you can do this. I wrote out some suggestions in Caesar Vacantism. All right, so reading from Caesar Vacantism, and this is coming from my chapter in the book on avoiding left-wing urban hellholes, which I think is probably my favorite chapter. But in it, I talk about how, if you have to work in a city, it's better than living there and working, and it might be one of the few times suffering through a commute is worth it. So that's what I talk about here. Quote, all factors being equal, it would be better to work in a city than live there. It might be high time for a lot of folks to consider whatever career they can stomach related to IT or working remotely in fields such as, and I list through a whole bunch of them, I'm going to paraphrase it, call center work. You could work for a suicide hotline, you could work for some kind of troubleshooting service. The troubleshooting stuff, it might be a $10 or $12 an hour gig, may not be the best money in the world, but it'll get you over in a pinch. Affiliate marketing, that's where, you're the middleman in terms of advertising. You make ads in favor of these companies or whoever is trying to sell something. You go and make an ad for them. And basically, if they get traffic to their website, to their product, you make money off it. You get a commission. There are folks that do that lucratively. Web development, that's self-explanatory. Coding, programming, software development. Okay, so if you know how to code, if you know how to put things together internet-wise, bits and bytes, zeros and ones, great field to get into. It's obviously not shrinking. Internet entertainment. You can do like I'm doing and actually make money off of it. So do a better job than I do. Okay, producing online content. There's people that have made it real big with that, but you might get censored. A little bit risky. Enter at your own risk. Probably more fun as a side gig. Consulting. Lots of fields to do this in. So if you've got expertise in a particular thing and this is your job, your 9 to 5 that you go to, you want to get away from that, which is what I'm recommending, you could still hold on to the efficacy of all that great skill and abilities that you've built up and just go into consulting. Next one, accounting. All right, this is a great one. Okay, but you will have to have specialized training in it, so you got to go get a degree in accounting. The downside is, and I talk about this in other chapters, is accounting is one of those things where you got to get an MBA, and you got to get a CPA, and you get all that, and renew licenses. That kind of sucks. Maybe not worth it. But if you can set up a private practice working as an accountant, you're always going to have work. Always. And even if you just get the accounting degree, I don't know, at least that's something. Your salary maxes out kind of high, but even that's better than nothing. Editing work. Can you edit people's papers and books and stuff? Academic, journalistic, whatever. If you have the skill to do that, hey, you could probably turn that into a profitable business. And you don't have to go to a brick and mortar to do it. Also, for while we're at it, if you have talent as a writer, fiction writer, you know how to write people's internet content for their blogs, you can make that work as a job. Takes a little getting into, a little bit of development. It's kind of a slow builder, but it's been done. There's people that do it right now. Freelancer.com, there's people that do freelance writing on that website. All kinds of freelance stuff there. Last one, data analysis. So, okay, and that one, maybe not the best in the world. It's you got to kind of be a quant geek to pull it off. But if you got statistical skills, you can do all that stuff on your laptop at your house. And, I didn't even mention here in this chapter, and I kind of wish I did put in there, hey, you know what? The world still needs plumbers, electricians, welders. These are growing and lucrative fields. Now, I don't think I would do the go work on an oil rig thing anymore. That used to be a pretty lucrative trade as well. These are all trades. Going and working on the oil fields or out in the Bakken oil fields or in the Gulf of Mexico and around Texas, those used to be more lucrative ideas, and you could more or less work on it. It's not entrepreneurially, but it's also not going to your typical brick and mortar hellhole skyscraper job. But that, unfortunately, I think it's kind of drying up, or it's becoming politically impossible to do, or it's becoming a political liability. It's not as easy to get those opportunities, and they could literally dry up overnight with the wrong move by Biden, Kamala Harris, and the Democrats. So there, I gave you a whole bunch of things that you can do that don't involve being a slave to some crazy baby boomer or Gen X boss. And let's face it, there's maybe a 5 to 10% if you just throw a dart at all the possible bosses you could get, just blindly throw a dart out there, that you might actually hit a good one. I've heard people talk about, they would sacrifice anywhere from 10 to 15% of their salary just to have a boss that's not miserable. So this is absolutely a ubiquitous problem. And I've discussed this before on in previous podcasts, that when these companies and the government, the big machine, whatever you want to call it, realizes that you need something, that you can't do without it, they gain very serious leverage over you. And it shouldn't surprise us that, especially in this last year or so, when the powers that be have gone hog wild, that they would exploit our dependency on these jobs. So look, it's just in our interest, guys and gals, everybody, to get the heck away from companies. Conservatives, libertarians, anybody that doesn't go along with the machine is not welcome. They will be antagonized. You already know this. You don't need me to tell you this. I'm sure you experience this. I'm 90% certain you already experience this crap. The horrible office politics in any field you go into. How about academia? Can you imagine being a research professor in any university right now? And if you were conservative? Wow. Now, we still need academics. We still need people to write books and research old stuff. And we need theologians. We need physicists. Most scholarship is worthless, but it's not like there's no need for it. So you got to figure out a way to go independent on that. This is a great opportunity for us to reinstitute gender roles. But guess what? Even as you do that, it doesn't have to be this situation where the guy becomes an entrepreneur, spends all this time working, and then the woman just sits around like a bump on a log. Yes, I understand that the woman's primary function in a Catholic marriage is to raise and train and rear up the youngins. But okay, we know that eventually all the kids move out. Eventually you have empty nest syndrome. Then what does the woman do? So obviously they would want something to do to occupy their time. So it's not like, I don't believe in this idea that women can't work at all. It's just stay out of the workplace, which shouldn't even be that controversial if I'm expecting men to do the same thing. Both men and women, quote unquote, stay home, or at least they just stay away from modern companies, do their own thing, set up mom and pop kind of operations, cooperate, work together. Yes, it's the guy who leads it. Yes, it's the guy who does the bulk of the work, because the woman does have some other tasks to do, usually raising the children. But it doesn't have to be this crazy caricature of man work, and woman sit in a corner and wait for children. It's not that static and two-dimensional. I would really encourage us to kind of explore how we can figure out how to get back to the old days where, you had a family farm. You had that mom and pop store, and everybody worked together. Even the children. Yes, the children. I wrote about this on my blog, ditchthestate.loveholychurch.com. It's one of the 10 planks of Marxism for children to be completely useless, unproductive, and not work. Karl Marx wants the elimination of child labor. The children are not meant to be a bump on a log or playing all day. That's not the only function of childhood. I'm not talking about making all of your children, turning them into Oliver Twist or chimney sweeps, but it used to be the case that they would contribute in the family business, on the farm. It's not slave labor, and obviously it's dependent on how old they are, what they can physically do. But contrast that with the way we do things today, pajama boy, everybody's a child till they're 25 or 30. That's completely ridiculous, and you wonder why we have some of the social malaise that we have. Of course we do, because we've followed the Marxist idea that children can't do anything except be pupils and students all the way till they're middle-aged. That needs to stop. Women and men need to get out of the workplace. If you need a takeaway message for what I'm saying, the family needs to get more cohesive. It needs to stay away from the pollution of global homo companies. Do your own thing. Forge good relationships with other Catholics, like-minded folks. That's how we're going to save Western civilization. That's how we're going to rebuild a sustainable society, not this crazy lunacy that we've had, particularly in the last year or so. So that's it, guys. I appreciate you listening to my show again. The Catholics Aren't Zombies. Available on Apple, iTunes, all the funny places. So I need you to subscribe. Subscribe to one of those. That way I know you actually want to hear more of this garbage. But other than that, buy the book Caesar Vacantism. I was reading from it earlier. That was a chapter on avoiding the left-wing urban hellholes. So certainly do that. And have a good one. Cue the music.